I'm Tim,
I'm Cody.
23-year military veteran with the Navy. Talk about more about my afterlife in later videos.
I'm a 30-year practitioner in martial arts, and together we're going to be talking about some current events, some homesteading, some prep, some budgeting. Hopefully, y'all enjoy what we have to offer.
So with the homesteading, one of the things we're looking at is actually showing you from start to finish what the homestead is like, how we start the builds, the build outs, everything from scratch. We're not going to just like other videos start stuff and then just show you the after cause of what we did. All right. So today we're actually going to talk about a topic that was pretty popular in the past couple of years. We're going to talk about that Amish farmer Amos Miller, because there really hasn't been an update in quite some time on it, but there is actually updates out there. Um, you know, just to refresh everybody, back in 21, in April, I believe it was, the .gov acronym agencies had the U.S. Marshals raid his property for selling meat and dairy products that wasn't up to their standards. Okay, so I'll let him go on from here a little bit.
So, Amos Miller was an Amish farmer, as Tim mentioned, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania area. For those that aren't familiar with the Amish, they live a very simplistic, a very technology-free, for the most part. Now, there are some sects that do embrace technology a little bit. But what was happening is he was raising his animals, running his farm, completely natural. No hormones, no antibiotics. It was all grass-fed animals. He had a rotational crop and livestock system set up where his cattle, for example, would feed, um, a field, a particular area. Then he would follow that up with his chickens to rotate through. They would clean up the bugs from the droppings of the animals, spread it, with their scratching, stuff like that. Then he would rotate through yet again with, like, pigs, for example, that would go through and all their rooting and all the other aspects of what a hog would do. They trample in and push the fertilizer left from the cattle, spread by the chickens, down into the soil to rejuvenate and re-enrich that soil for the next rotation the following year. So through all this, he had an active working farm, and he sold his products. He sold his meat after slaughter. He sold his dairy products, raw milk, cheeses, so on and so forth, to a local buying community. If I'm not mistaken, it was somewhere around 3,000 to 3,100 customers.
Mm-hmm. And it was all a private club.
Yeah.
It was all a private membership club.
So it wasn't like you and I could go onto the website and just order from him. You had to be in his co-op for all intents and purposes. Problem that the .govs, the alphabet agencies, had was the fact that he was selling across state lines without their governance, shall we say.
Okay, so with that, one of the things that happened was there was Listeria found in a couple of people. One person actually died from Listeria, and one of the reasons why the .gov agencies did this to Amos Miller was because the two people that had contracted the Listeria was similar to the Listeria that was found in Amos Miller's milk. Now, with Listeria, the reason it's going to be similar is because of the DNA of the Listeria. They're just like anthrax. And even the flu, and other
common cold
viruses, is because of the DNA. DNA is going to be similar in that type. That's why if you do a search for Listeria, you'll find out that there is about 21 strains of Listeria. Now that doesn't include substrains. And what you'll find is if you do a search for Listeria strains that were caused by man-made effects or by gain and function research, two things are going to pop up damn near every time. One of them is Dr. Evil Tony, NIH. The other one is the foreign WHO. So with that, you're going to see that just because the strains are similar, that doesn't mean that it was his fault.
So essentially what happened is, like Tim said, similar strains. They couldn't actually prove that those strains of Listeria were from Amos's stock or products. Just similar. And similar enough that they had the judge or whoever authorize was it FDA, if I'm not mistaken, agent to go onto the farm and observe the products. Well, Amish believe in a two-kingdom, I don't want to say doctrine, but belief system. Very, very, like I said, simplistic people and very devout in their beliefs. Now, their two-kingdom system is a worldly and a heavenly system. That being said, they are subject is a harsher word that I think I'd like to use, but for explanation's sake, they're subject to regular laws and regulations that you or I are. Where the Amish differ is in their two kingdom belief system. Once the rules of men step on the rules of their belief system, their God, their way of life, essentially. Once rules of man supersede rules of God, they don't follow, because the kingdom of God, the rule of God is all encompassing, it's all powerful, it supersedes that of the rule of man.
Mm-hmm.
So when the alphabet agencies began to, well, descend for all explanation, he began to push back, and at that point he was fined hundreds of thousands of dollars for failure to comply, as well as the federal and the FDA agents that were on his farm. He was actually forced to pay the salaries of those people as well. And when I say federal, when he pushed back, the FDA agent requested the Marshal Service be tagged on
Yep.
and dispatched along with his visits. And they were actually, the marshals were given, I don't want to say carte blanche, but they were given within reasonable action the ability to
Cease.
there you go,
Cease and desist.
And search all his already rendered products, all the cheese, all the milk, all the meat that were being stored in his facilities.
So what it comes down to is when the U.S. Marshals went in there, they seized all of the product, okay? But the thing is, Amos Miller, all the product was stored on his property.
Never removed.
Even when it was seized, nothing was removed. So not only was it seized and he couldn't do anything with it, but now he's having to pay to make sure that that product doesn't spoil. So then he goes to court, and the lawyer he has, he wants to do a sovereign citizen claim because of him being Amish. So the lawyer that he has isn't really going along with that, and Amos Miller wanted to fire this lawyer. The judge said, no, you can't fire him. So then
the judge didn't subscribe to sovereign citizenship.
Yeah.
Sovereign citizenship, those who believe in sovereign citizenship believe that men get to choose which laws they follow in a very high overview. It's a whole lot more deep than that,
Yeah.
but in an overview, in a very high overlook, not all laws are fair, and a sovereign citizen can choose or will choose which ones they believe are legitimate, shall we say, and beneficial, and
Yeah.
which ones
And
they
we all
choose not
know
to
these
listen
days which laws are beneficial.
to.
Dang.
Anyway,
So, so finally a lawyer from Los Angeles actually steps up because, this Listeria, one of the cases of the two people that had it, one of them was in California, the other one was in Florida. Now, granted, Amos Miller was shipping his product all across the states. So this new lawyer comes in, and at this point, Amos Miller was basically found in contempt with a $250,000 fine, and also a $50,000. I don't want to say fine, but $50,000 he has to pay in fees for the acronym agencies for their time and troubles. Okay, so this lawyer steps in, and basically what it comes down to is in December of last year, Amos Miller ended up paying $30,000. It was like December 23rd last year, he paid $30,000. And then by a day in January, I believe it was like the 15th or the 17th, he had to pay almost another $30,000.
27,000
Yeah.
something.
And then in April, by the 15th, if I'm not mistaken, he was supposed to pay another almost $30,000. Now, as far as the rest of the deal, that's still unclear, but he was able to take that product that he was storing on his property that was seized, that he's still paying to take care of. He was able to take that product, and he had a certain date in which he had to get rid of it or sell it. If it went beyond that date, then he would have to destroy that product.
Or
Mm-hmm.
they gave him the option, if it went beyond that specific date and he still had product, label the milk as like pet's milk, and the meat would be rendered into dog food.
Yeah.
So, is
So
it fair?
basically, he's going to lose money on it because of having to make it into dog food. He's not going to get the cost benefit from it being a prime product like it was before. So, that's pretty much where it stands now. If we find out anything else about the deal that was made, it doesn't look like he has to pay any more money, but there was a GoFundMe page started and a GiftMe page started to where he ended up with almost $600,000?
595,000, I think, is what I read.
Yeah, something like that. So people do care about this. People were concerned because, in our opinion, it's just another overreach by DocGov. And the only reason why it was done was because, if you sell meat and it's labeled USDA, then you have to pay USDA fees for that. So, in my opinion, this wasn't so much about the Listeria as much as it was compliance.
Making a point, going after an honest man.
You will comply, and we will have control of you. It's one of those things where you got to pay us, whether you like it or not. You're going to pay, and that's what that's what it's all about. Is all about the money. So basically, $55,000 he had to pay for .com acronym agencies.
Yep, an agent to be on site to say, "Oh yeah, this meat's good," or "This milk is okay."
Yeah. So one of the things that we're looking at is no, we will not comply. From now on there will be no compliance. You got to take care of you and your family. You got to do what's best for you all. Don't just bow down. Just like over the past couple of years with all these mandates and everything that everybody went through. Never once had it. Been around thousands of people. Never once had it. Just take proper precautions. Do not let them get control. Do not comply. Don't bow down.
On that point, after the last debacle, I think enough people have begun to wake up. I think compliance will be a whole lot harder this time around. But then again, you always have the go along, get along, government can do no wrong. But the overreach is real. Amos was just an example of what they can and will do. And to expound on that just a little bit, his wife was actually listed as a co-business owner, had nothing to do with this. they began to go after her to prove their point, and it got to the point where they actually removed her name from any business listings. I believe it's Miller's Farm is
something like that. Yeah.
something like that. Her name has been removed from the business listing because they were targeting her and going after her when he became non-compliant and started fighting back.
Non-compliant.
Just because her name was on the business license, so they removed her name so that she is no longer a player in this and cannot be forced to pay and or coerced into releasing information that could be construed.
Now, one thing to keep in mind with all this, the Amish have been doing things this way, their way, for centuries. Okay? This isn't something new. This is something that they've been doing all along. Keep in mind, over the past couple of years, that they didn't comply. They let everybody go to church. Everybody got sick. Everybody was fine. Now everybody is immune. So there is no compliance.
I believe the Amish community had the lowest.
Yep. Because they did it the right way.
Yeah, the lowest
Infection
count
rate.
of infection
Yeah.
of any communities in the United States.
Yep.
And the world, if I'm not mistaken.
So you're not going to comply with our mandates? Then we're going to make you bow down. We're going to make you comply. And this is how they're doing it. You know, so don't fall for it. Don't go for it. No more mandates. No more compliance.
Yeah. And unless you have anything else,
No, I'm
there's
good. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Hope to see you back.
Close us out with Ronald Reagan, who said the 7 scariest words in the English language are "I'm from the government, I'm here to help." Keep that in mind.
I will not comply.